okay, so I wrote a little bit about Bertrand in my letter. And I just am so thrilled. I had him on my schedule to invite him to be a speaker, but it was for a different month. And whatever, there was a bit of a snafu. And then really at the last minute, he agreed to come. And he's had COVID for 5 days. So he has rested all day just to be able to be here for us. So we're going to want to be efficient tonight, so we don't overtax the poor man. As I wrote, I've known Bertrand since I was 19. We were just talking about how I met him through my mom, my very intrepid mother, who met Bertrand and said, well, I have to introduce you to the entire town now, which she did. She pretty much did. And when I heard about Bertrand, at the time I was a dancer, and I heard that he was doing this thing called Rolfing. And Rolfing sounded like a fun thing to do. Not fun, actually, but Bertrand, because he was also a healer, when he would work on, different sections, he would follow it up with his healing energy. And I remember lying on the floor of his treatment room, and Bertrand has a thing that happens with his face when the energy is flowing through him. He gets little twitches. And so I could tell every time that after it was, it's painful to get Rolf, but afterwards he would heal me right up. And then I didn't have any residual pain. I will never forget the day that he did my arms. And I walked out to my car and I felt like they were on strings and they wanted to fly up to the sky. They were so freed up. It was amazing. Anyway, but Bertrand has, and I'm going to have him tell you all about it. Bertrand is more than your average healer, but Bertrand has done the deepest dives into the spiritual world, and he has studied with some of the major masters of the world, and he's just been like a sponge. He has soaked up everything. He's gone to every corner. He's opened up. He's under the rug. That's how I see him. He's just soaked up everything. And it's all in his body and in his mind and in his being. So we are incredibly blessed to have Bertrand with us tonight. So with no further ado, please meet Bertrand, Dr. Bertrand Babinet. Yay.
Well, hi, everybody. I am delighted to be with you, and I'll do my best to communicate some simple truth that can simplify your life and make things easier or more graceful, because that's pretty much my focus online, is to take, I'm blessed being a French person to be a reluctant intuitive that basically likes to bring everything into a practical application of how is that going to be of service to you, So that's pretty much my focus, whether I approach functional medicine or whether I approach house clearing or whether I approach, spirituality. It's like, how do we bring it to a level of practice that can actually bring transformation? And that's my purpose. So that will be my focus. And I think Hope has a bunch of questions she wants to ask, and then we'll go from there, and I'll probably ad-lib as we go along.
Well, great. So let's start with a little encapsulation of your story, how you came to this, how you came to healing in the beginning, and then all the things you studied, and just kind of wrap that up as elegantly as you can.
Well, in terms of the spirituality, I was brought up Catholic, but in a family which was somewhat open-minded. even though it had a lot of the rigidity, the right and wrong and things like that, I came from a family of 12 children. And by the time I was a youngster, many of my brothers and sisters were already challenging everything about my parents' belief, So it was not exactly that was presented with that's the way it is, and that's what you have to believe. And my parents were also very, very cognizant of the fact that even though they believed a lot of things and probably a lot of dogma, they also very strongly believed that we had to find our own internal alignment and know if it resonated for us. So whether we call that conscience or whatever, that it was our conscience had to be our guide and not a bunch of rules. And that was quite clear. So I definitely had that as a foundation. But I was basically had very strong mystical experiences from just being a kid. When I was 6, 7, 10 years old, I had some very noticeable experiences. In my teen, I wanted to be a monk. Then I realized that monks really should have sex, and I didn't like that. And so I gave up on the monk. And but basically, I definitely had that orientation and then looked for. And yes, I did explore a lot of alternative spirituality from, Teilhard de Chardin to Gurdjieff to past of India from my spiritual teacher, John Roger, on Muktinanda and many other people. I studied with Arika for many, many years. The person was called Oscar Ichazo. And so that was the foundation, and then progressively I basically said, okay, well, what is the core of all those beliefs? And obviously the core was connecting to the heart, that in my point of view, spirituality that doesn't start in the heart, mostly for me, is not really an alignment with spirit. So I basically became very aware that the key was to come into an alignment with the heart, and parallel to that was, and so that's the spiritual part of it. The the healing part of it was a little bit different. One of my first awareness was I was in Normandy and my sister had some gynecological issue. And I was playing with a book of herbs. And I had this weird thought that maybe I could tune into her, go in nature, and find, you know, herb that would basically balance her body. So I went into the field and came back with an herb that indeed we researched in the book, and which was basically a French version of Dong Quai. And of course, Dong Quai is one of the traditional Chinese herbs for female issues. And so we learned how to prepare it and things like that. And by the next day, she was starting to feel better. And so that was the beginning of my ability to attune to imbalances and identify resources to bring things back into balance. And to this day, that's very much what I do, except that I don't go to nature. I go to a nomenclature of products on herbs and things like that, that I've been working with for many years. And there are many different companies on select the product that really line up for me. And what I do when I work with people is always looking at what's going on. And I've, over the year, created a very specific template to analyze the body. And then basically, in a way, identify a negative matrix and then find a matrix of products to bring things back into balance. And that in the nutshell. And I've done a lot of training in functional medicine. And so my view is very much what's going on, what is out of balance, how do we restore the natural state of the body to take care of itself. That would be the foundation of my healing work, and those of you who are interested, if you go to my website, all the information, all the different resources are there. Now, my book is a little bit different because that was part of my PhD dissertation in human development. And the idea that I had was correlating the brain research of the time, which at the time was called the triune brain, with the 5 element of acupuncture, and to basically look at how does, what is the correlation with the function of the brain and the correlation with basically Chinese medicine. And that was the foundation of my book. And what I discovered working with a lot of the acupuncturists, especially the French school of acupuncture, was way more advanced than the American at the time, because acupuncture was brought in France in the 30s. So we already had a lot of very refined authors at that time. And basically, what I discovered is that they never talked about love. The Chinese had no concept of love. And I said, okay, there is something off. That concept of love, that concept of inner alignment with the heart. So they have a concept of Shen, that the heart is at the center of the whole thing, but they would never call it love, And so that was interesting to me to say, okay, well, if we were to bring that as the foundation of a whole human psyche, what would we look at? And basically that's what my book is about the fact that the brain has major function, and I call them connecting, cognition, will, and creative expression or imagination. And those are the natural instrument of our brain, but by their nature, they polarize and they move into reactivity. So the key is the nature of our brain has been programmed for survival. And basically, its default setting is reactivity. Okay.
Yeah.
And so the question is, that's why we constantly react. Okay. And the first rule is don't make it wrong. That's our default setting. It's not going to stop. So the question is not whether we are going to continue reacting, because our brain has been designed for reactivity, and so is our body. Okay. So the question is, what do we choose when we move into a state of reactivity? How do we bring ourselves back into a state of balance and in a state of greater resourcefulness and effectiveness in the way we approach our life and we approach life issues? Okay, so that's pretty much the foundation. And do you want me to go on, or do you want to ask questions?
No, I'd like you to go on because now we'll go deeper into the book and the functioning of the heart and all the discoveries that you made. I think that's perfect. I mean, there are also pieces and chunks that you didn't talk about some of your training, but I think that's fine. Let's move into the book now. So the book, everybody knows it's called Empowering the Heart.
It's called Empowering the Heart. And basically the notion is that because we tend to be polarized outward, both in terms of our reactivity, but also because of our own needs, so that we tend to be driven by the needs of the egos, whether the need for attention, the need for recognition, the need for control, the need for basically, getting what we want and so on. So we have, in Chinese medicine, they have a nice model that they call heaven, earth, and man. Okay. And basically what they say is that the spirit is active, or the planet is attractive, and we're kind of in between, okay? And we are attracted outward into the world, and then start looking at the world for our satisfaction and gratification, during which, of course, we experience a lot of disillusionment, but also a lot of attachment and a lot of hooks and a lot of ego gratification that basically push us outward rather than inward to look for our fulfillment, you know. And so it's very important to find that way back to reconnect us to the source. Sometimes I call that the water hose theory of enlightenment. Okay. In other words, if the hose is not connected to the faucet, it's not very effective in the garden. Okay. So I basically look at our connector to whatever you want to call it, God, love, the source. Those don't matter to me. I mean, what language you want to put on it. The notion is that there is something which is already full, empowered, and active, and that there is a way for us to come into that alignment and become an extension of that movement into the world. Okay. And so that to me is the game plan, you know, is we will always be pulled out. That's our nature, you know. And then the question is, when we realize we're off track, how do we come back into balance, resource the amazing dimension of the soul, and then bring that back into our expression in the world, you know. And what I've discovered is that there were two words which were a little tricky because they had been framed in a way that did not really allow us to have a clear understanding of what they were. The first one was love, because it tended to be associated with romantic attachment rather than love as a spiritual, empowering, transformational energy. Okay, so I had to find a way to say, you know, if you try to access that mentally, you are going to go back to that identification of emotion or not of the heart. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So how do we get out of that dilemma? The other one was the word peace, which for me is really the doorway into love. Okay. And the fact that mostly what we learned about peace was peace officer, were a policeman, and he were not very peaceful. Okay. For the most part, they are big guns and they are here to basically, you know, maintain order, maybe, or create disorder. They certainly don't bring a whole lot of peace. Okay. So we have two semantic paradigms that really did not reflect what we needed to know about peace or what we needed to know about love to be fully empowered. And then what I discovered is that advertisers had stumbled over a certain number of things that in fact connect people to their heart, and then use it to sell them washing machine and cars. Okay. Yeah. And that basically, that's what I call the five symbol, is that they basically use nature, babies, pet, music, you know, and as the main things to bring us into an area of being touched, because that feeling of being touched is what we really want, you know. That's when we, how do we know that? Because when we say I was touched, we always touch the heart. You know, we don't say I was touched. We don't say I was touched. We don't, you know, hold our knees, okay? We say I was touched. And we know that this element of touch is basically something which is really precious to us, okay? And so what I've discovered is that rather than tell people, go to your peace, which very often they didn't know how to go. I said, well, which one of those four symbols bring you into a state of inner expansion, or a state of quietness, or a state of, inner peace, And so basically what we're going to do now is a little exercise for everybody here, so that you have a chance just to say, well, which one of those symbols bring me into that place of inner quietness, okay? So just take a second, close your eyes, and we're going to do one symbol at a time, okay? So close your eyes or just focus on nature, okay? It's a no-brainer for many people, and instead of being outward focused, when you focus internally on nature, get a sense of where that goes inside of you. What does it activate? And then you can breathe with it, because spirit is carried on the breath. Okay, now you can let go of nature and you can focus on a little baby. And the same thing, just look at when you focus on the tiny little infant, where does you go in your consciousness? Now, for some of you, it might bring you directly into your sense of responsibility, and not at all in your sense of peacefulness, okay? But for some of you, it might very well bring you your sense of inner peacefulness. Then do the same thing with a pet, Focus on your favorite pet. Right now, my cat is peeing on my carpet, and so it's not my best preference of inner alignment with peace. I can tell you, it's an empty carpet and I'm not very happy. But usually pets are very effective for me, okay? Then the same thing, focus on music. Great. So I don't know if you felt that, but just doing that, the energy of the group has changed. Okay. The whole energy became much more quiet and much more peaceful. What I would like is for some of you to share, which symbol worked the best for you. Or if there was none, let me know, because there is other way of getting there. Okay. So let me know a little bit, where were the symbol that worked the best for you? And what did you experience?
Anybody have a little, would you like to share, Nancy?
Nature. Nature took me right to the heart. Baby took me to my head. Animals took me to vulnerability, and music made me happy.
Good. But no, happy is a very good place of the heart.
Yeah.
Because they said that joy is actually the external sign of the manifestation of spirit. That's why the workshop that I'm starting to teach tomorrow is called the joy of peace. Because in fact, when we are in that state of inner peace, there is a sense of joy. It's not the ha 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 joy. No, it's not that kind of joy. But yes, there is definitely a very big key that we are resonating with that heart energy. Great. You got at least a few of those that worked for you.
Yeah.
And by the way, baby often triggers responsibility. Nature for some people work fantastically well. And for other people, it really activates the environmentalist in us, or the frustration at what is happening in nature.
Yeah.
So we have to be careful is that, yes, we can all reprogram them as a heart alignment, but they may have accrued certain cognitive dimension that are making it harder for us to access the essence of the experience. Okay.
Yeah, interesting.
So thank you for your sharing, because you definitely reflect that beautifully.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. Lisa, did you want to say?
Okay, so I thought that nature would be the main one that activated for me. And when I thought of nature, my lower legs and my feet just grounded into the earth, and I felt so great. Then when I went to baby, I was surprised that I really felt it in my solar plexus, which I then realized was like because the mama bear is
You
going
bet.
to do anything for her cubs.
Sure.
The pet, thinking of my pet, I just felt playful, like a kid, and joyful and ready to dance with my dog. And then music, actually, I have a complicated relationship with music, and my lungs felt a little bit funny as I thought about music. So it's not it's not there as a safe thing for me.
Well, just a second. Let's try one more.
Okay.
Try touching your heart center
Mm-hmm.
and close your eye.
Mm-hmm.
Does that do it?
It's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very common. So there are some people where their response is kinesthetic. And just when you're talking about your relationship to Earth as being grounded, I suspected that you had a pretty strong kinesthetic sense.
Mhm.
And so it basically, for you, just touching your heart or even focusing on your heart will bring you right into that place of inner peace.
Whenever my friends get frustrated with me, it's because I'm touching things I'm not supposed to.
Sure.
Like in a museum, you have to keep me from touching things, and so, makes sense.
Absolutely. So just touch your heart, that will bring you right there. Anything else? Anybody else wanted to share?
Karen, did you want to say something?
Well, actually, after the touching the heart part more than the other pieces was when we had learned from Jorge there, the no fear, just love. But I can actually not go to no fear, just love, because I had to go to choose love. And recently I can say choose unconditional love. That's new. That's new.
Yeah.
Was always touching, choosing from the belly, touching the heart.
Well, touching the heart is going to be a very critical key for some people. In fact, it really doesn't matter which one works for you. What the importance of having one of the symbol work, and progressively you will see that one may work one day and another way, one may work another day. There is nothing absolute about any of those, but the key is knowing how to move from reactivity to inner balance, because we are going to continue reacting and we are going to continue having expectation. Okay. You are absolutely correct about choosing love. Love is a choice. Okay. And the reason it's a choice is that it's always present, but we have to choose into it.
Mhm.
It's not really that we choose love, we choose into love, in the same way as we choose into peace. Okay. But the love is there. It's just that we get sidetracked and we forget the essence of our own being. And when we come back into the awareness of our own being in being love, then yes, we chose, and then we can extend it, and that extension has no string attached.
Right.
Our attachment has a lot of string attached. Okay. But the love itself really transcends us. That's the nature, that's the essence of our oneness. So in a way, it really doesn't belong to us. All we really do is connect to it, embrace it. What I usually tell people, actually, I'm going to do that with you for a second. Just close your eyes again, or choose one of the symbol that worked well for you, or just put your hand on your center of the chest and breathe into that. And as you connect to the inner peace, just start absorbing it as if you're a sponge. Become one with it. Acknowledge it. And then extend it to somebody. Very beautiful. Fantastic. You can open up your eyes. See, so that's really connecting, receiving, absorbing, enjoying it, acknowledging it, and then saying, oh, now that I am ready, I've taken it in, I can share it. Okay. And indeed, we can share it through everything we do. All our expression become imbued with that love of spirit. Okay. All we have to do is basically what I was saying, is connect to the faucet. Okay. Now there is a little key. Connecting to the faucet is just connecting to the heart on inner peace, and then the flow of love naturally comes through. There is a little saying which says, when there is peace, there is love. When there is love, there is oneness. When there is oneness, there is no need. Okay. So we're no longer in a state of wanting, we're in a state of giving. We are in a state of abundance and extending our abundance. And that's a fun game. When I first discovered that, I went through every aspect of my childhood and every trauma, from intra-utero World War II. I was born, by the way, at the beginning of World War II, when I was in my mother's stomach during we were running away from the German and moving to the south of France. So that was my intra-utero experience, at at 6 months intra-utero, which is the transition. That's what I was going through, and then I had to go through all the war. And in fact, I was in the trenches in Normandy at the time of the liberation. I was not a soldier. They were protective trenches in basically the yard of our house, with all the doors of the house on top of the trenches to avoid the bomb coming from the plane, or the thriving, because it wasn't bomb. So yes, so I went back and I basically said, okay, I have to clean up the desk. So I basically connected to the piece and brought the piece into everything. Now I had plenty on my plate. When I first did my bioenergetic therapy, I screamed so hard that my therapist was kicked out of his building, you know. So I had a fair amount of trauma to release out of my body. Okay. And at that time, I didn't do it through loving, but later on, I went back and said, let's bring the loving back in all those experiences, you know. And you can all do that. You really go back and reprogram your life so that everything, all the trauma, all the tension, all the aches is neutralized. You know, in fact, I was teaching that in a workshop about 20 years ago with a woman who was divorced from her husband, and she had been in pain ever since. And she had gone through therapy and everything, and she was still didn't know what to do with it. We did the process of peace with her, and she came back after it and she said, I don't get it. I no longer have any charge towards my husband. I said, oh, it's simple. It never was your husband. It was your experience attached to what happened with your husband. Okay. Your husband may have been a complete jerk. That I don't deny that possibility, you know, and he might even be abusive and all of those. That's all possible. But what you are still holding on is those judgments towards him, towards you, towards what happened, what he did, what you should have done, what he could have done, what all those things is what is a poison that is still holding on. And in that, you're no longer free. You're not free within yourself. You're not free to create new relationship because you're still holding on to all of that. She totally got it. You know, she totally got it. And it was like, you know, 20 minutes of liberation. Now, did she held on to it? I don't know, you know. We have a funny way of bringing the past back. And sometimes we have to do things 10, 20, 30 times before we're ready to let it go and say, no, I choose my freedom. And my freedom is my spiritual alignment. And I'm going to make that more important to me than any righteousness. Okay. And I can tell you righteousness is what blocks it. I was teaching a workshop in England, basically, and I don't know if you know that the British can be very righteous, but basically, I try to teach them how to move into the peace to neutralize, you know, their resentment. And they didn't want to do that. They told me bluntly, it's like, why would I let go of those things? They did it to me. I said, yeah, and you're still doing it to you all day long, you know. So they did it to you once or maybe 200 times, and now you are repeating the same thing again and again. You're re-injuring yourself every time you replay the same tape. Okay. They didn't like me. They thought that my approach was too simplistic, that it had to be more esoteric, more complicated, you know, that it could not be that simple as just letting go and letting God, you know. But, you know, or I said to people, try it, you might try to get addicted. You know, it's basically learning how to let go of the hurt is amazingly important. So we're going to do a little exercise, okay? You're going to close your eyes again, and you're going to choose something which is upsetting to you. And in the same way as you took the symbol and felt how it feels inside of you, I want you to experience the upset. Does it go in your gut? Does it go into your belly? Does it go in your genital? Does it go in your throat? Does it go in your head? Does it go in your neck? Does it go in your back? Does it go in your leg? What does it do to you? Then when you have done that, just let it go. Tell yourself, okay, you can put an X, whatever you want, okay? And what you are going to do is go back to your symbol of peace. So close your eyes, go to your symbol of peace, or whatever worked the best for you, nature, music, pet, focusing on the heart. And as you connect to the peace, start receiving, absorbing, enjoying it, acknowledging the peace. Connect to that love energy, that spiritual love energy, or just extend it to the situation, as if you are just a channel. As if through your focus, you could just extend that energy out. Very nice. Well, I can't connect to all of you, but I know that for a lot of you, things got a whole lot lighter.
Yeah.
So anybody want to share what their experience was?
Come on, you guys.
Well, I'll share. Thank you so much, Bertrand. For me, it's just so stunning how quick it is,
Yeah.
how lightning fast, and going into that sense. For me, it's nature. I found it was nature, and how full and filled I felt. And also when I thought of the upsetting thing, it was in my, up here. And so just beautiful to be able to just get back to that state of restoration. Thank you.
But it is magical. It is totally magical, and all it takes. Now, you know what the Sufi says, because they say basically that they call it remembering, you see, because they know we're going to forget again. And they say basically at the beginning, you may have to remember yourself. You must remember yourself, extending yourself as a member of the divine energy. You have to remember yourself to that spiritual source. And that becomes second nature. So at the beginning, the reactivity is our default setting. And as we build up those spiritual muscles, progressively, it becomes our home state.
Mm-hmm.
And then something magical happens is when we get off, it's so excruciating, we can't stand it. And that's the good news, is that it becomes so much part of us that when we go into our righteousness, all those things, those ego trip of victimization, righteous indignation, vindictiveness, and mental superiority, it sucks. Okay. And so we want to come back to that essence of God, because that's what we are designed to vibrate with. See, we were never designed to manage, function in the world without that as our inner resource.
Mm-hmm.
That is our design.
Right.
It is not our programming. That is our design to be an extension of the divine, and to bring that into every dimension of what we do, And as you say, bring joy, freedom, aliveness, tenderness, caring, all those things we really want. Okay. So now we're going to play another little game. Okay. You ready? So, okay. So close your eyes. Now you know how to cancel reactivity. You know you can go back into your past. and do what we call healing of memories. Okay. And the healing of memory is amazingly important. And by the way, you can also heal your relationships. Okay. And it won't change the other person, by the way. It will just change your relationship to them. Okay. But the other person may change, but not because you want them to change. But sometimes, you know, I used to do a training, which was called Insight Training Seminars, many, many years ago. And I had this amazing awareness that when I would leave, you know, I had all those charge about my kids being a pain in the ass and things like that. And when I came back, my kids have changed. But do you already think my kids changed? No, my point of view changed. And I was no longer seeing them through just the eyes of my responsibility, but also through the eyes of unconditional loving, you know. And of course, they still the same kids. Absolutely. Did they still do the same thing? Yes. You know, so when we change our inner relationship, we change our experience of the external environment. And it's kind of magical. Okay. So let's do something fun. Because I've taught you how to connect to the heart, expand in your peace, bring in the love, neutralize reactivity. But what if there is another dimension? What if it can actually empower you to be more effective in your life? Wouldn't that be fun? So close your eyes again, and you're going to go back to your symbol of peace or whatever connects you to that place of inner peace. You are going to connect, receive, absorb, enjoy, acknowledge, allow all that love to come in. You are going to extend it to the situation. And now you are going to ask yourself, is there a quality I could bring into this situation which would make things easier, more flowing, more expensive? Would it be humor, playfulness, aliveness, freedom, gentleness, tenderness, compassion, flexibility, cooperation, understanding, appreciation, gratitude? Okay, you can open up your eyes. Was there a quality that really clicked?
Yeah, Lisa, you want to say?
Playfulness.
Playfulness. Okay, beautiful. Okay, now, okay, so you got that playfulness would actually make things a lot easier. Okay, so now close your eyes, and everybody can do that too with their own quality. Close your eyes and just extend the playfulness to the situation, just like you were extending the love. And just ask yourself, when I look at this situation through the eyes of playfulness, how does it feel? How does it look? How would I describe it to somebody else? You know? Would it trigger any change in behavior on my part? Make sense? So you see, basically, as you access the quality, you get your marching orders. You see, we call those soul quality. And what is the characteristic? And by the way, if you get my book, I don't remember which page it is, but It's one of the early page. We have a whole page of quality that we have tested through kinesiology, and we can guarantee you one thing: they basically empower people. See, those are empowering quality. And there is a saying that the soul expresses in quality. Okay. So basically, we tend to express in terms of what should I do? What should I do? What do I need? The idea is the soul doesn't express like that. It expresses in terms of bring the joy, bring the humor, bring the compassion, bring the kindness, be flexible, be tender, be forgiving. You understand? Those qualities is what empowers our life expression. And what you will discover is that for every situation, there are qualities of the soul that empowers you. So that in fact, we're just here all wanting to be empowered. It's already there. The source is already within. All we have to learn is how to connect, to receive, and to ask. It says that in the Bible, ask and you shall receive. But we all want to receive money, okay? Or a new car. No. Ask for what you need to handle things in a more graceful, expanded way, in serving to yourself, others, and the world. And then everything flows. It's a natural process. By the way, if you want to go that on your own, there are 2 MP3s on there is my book, which you can get either from my website, and we prefer if you buy it from the website, because if you get it at Amazon, I get $2 or actually 70 cents. If you get it from my book, at least from my website, at least I'll get the money, okay? So do me a favor, if you decide you would like to know more about the whole process, and you want the book, get it on my website. And there are also 2 MP3, one which is called basically the world spirit on you, which is that notion of heaven, earth, and man. And there is another one which is called living in peaceful harmony. Okay. And then in case you are prone to judging your ego, which most people are, there is one which is called becoming friend with your ego. Okay. So that your ego is no longer, because many people have been trained, you see, to judge their reactivity and to go into shame.
Yeah.
That does not help. The shame adds insult to injury. Remember, love yourself. See, and keep on loving yourself more. After about 20 or 30 years of working with my spiritual teacher, the last time I had a communication with him, he told me, Bertrand, love yourself. I said, John Roger, of course I love myself. He said, more. Yes, of course I love myself more. See, love yourself more. Don't put anything between you and the divine love, which is there for you and for everybody you're going to serve. So I think I covered a lot of territory.
You sure did. Wow, that was absolutely fantastic. Just great techniques. And as Jan said, they're so fast.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
And we get more facile at it as we practice.
Absolutely.
It's really reprogramming triggers, and it's just a beautiful approach. I read your book. I mean, I learned things from you over the years, of course, but the book is really powerful, and it's all there. It's all right there in black and white. So,
Absolutely, and it's not easy. It's not easy reading. Okay, I mean it's easier reading for people who already know what I'm talking about.
yes, yes,
You know.
everybody here will read it quite easily.
Absolutely. For some other people, it's like, what are you talking about?
But you know why the book is good to have is because there are sections that you're going to want to underline and, put a paper clip in, because
Absolutely.
it's almost like a manual. And
It is.
right?
It is. And we talk about the imagination, and we talk about the will, and we talk about how things get thrown out of balance and how we can bring them back into balance. We talk about the language of emotion or the importance of the language of emotion. And you women know that much better than many other people, because for the most part we all have been raised in a man's world where the notion that emotion are precious is not exactly highly valued. Yet emotion is basically the language of our needs. But if we don't understand our emotion, we don't understand our needs. But if we don't understand our needs, we certainly don't know how to communicate them and to basically negotiate how to bring our need into fulfillment. And our need grow. I mean, there is no doubt, that we start with more basic need and we move into more spiritual need. But we still have to be able to identify them, express them, and so on. Now, you're probably all familiar with Marshall Rosenberg, which basically, if you're not, check him out, he's dead. But he basically, he created a whole system which is called Center for Nonviolent Communication,
Right.
which is basically the whole what are emotions and how do we deal with them and how do we bring them in a way that empowers us rather than disempowers us.
Right.
Okay. And women have a much bigger limbic brain. So they are basically much more intelligent than men. The only one who don't realize that, of course, are men. I think women have been onto that for a long time. Okay. But basically, you have a brain which enables you to look at things in a much more refined, expanded way, and so it's very important, I think, at this time for women to be empowered, because God knows we need that female energy on the planet at the present time. But unfortunately, many women have been taught to subjugate themselves and put themselves down.
Yeah.
And it's really time to claim that divine energy, basically, yeah, I mean, you all know that. I'm preaching to converts.
Pretty much. Let's see if there's some questions, Bertrand. Anybody have a question?
Yes, Linda does.
Great.
Bonsoir, Bertrand.
Bonsoir.
I just went on your website and I did not see the workshop you spoke of that you're teaching tomorrow.
Well, unfortunately, it is on somebody else's website.
Okay.
And so it is on, but unfortunately, the enrollment is full. But if you are interested, but the best thing, by the way, so let me give you my email, because if you send me a question like that by email, all the information in the workshop is at the bottom of my email, okay? And so you can definitely access it right away. And the answer is, unfortunately, it's full. We limited it at 12 people and we have 14. And that's about as far as we want, because we really want to be have a chance to interact with everybody and for
So it-
everybody to interact with each other. But we'll do it again. You know, it's not.
Empowering the heart.
Well, no,
Is
it's actually called the joy of peace.
Oh, that's right. The joy of peace.
The joy of peace. And it's,
That's right.
it is, no, I don't think it is on our website. And it was going to be on our blog. So if you
Okay.
check my website, which is babinetics.com, it might be in the blog. Unfortunately,
I saw the blog. I saw.
Yeah,
So
but it doesn't mean it's there, because my person who run my blog usually had a stroke not too long ago. She's better, but she, you know, I don't know if she has had time to transfer everything to the blog. But you know, if you send me an email, but so my email is practically the same. It's babinetics@gmail, you know, at gmail.com rather than babinetics.com.
So Heather just put it in the chat. Thank you, Heather.
Okay. So
Bertrand, can they sign up for on a list of some sort?
of course,
And they do that on your website, right?
well, they can send me an email. I am not the one organizing it. The one who is organizing is my friend Leslie Sand, and we're teaching it together. And Leslie is a great coach, you know, and basically, so yeah, so if you let us know you're interested, we'll definitely put you on the list for the future.
So
Okay,
is it
so-
just a one-day workshop?
Oh, no, it's 5 evening
Oh,
on Wednesday, starting, I think at, it depends where you are located. East Coast, it would be, I think it's.
Well,
it's
it doesn't
7 Cent-
matter. It
Yeah,
doesn't matter
7
anyway.
Central, so 8
Yeah.
o'clock East Coast.
It's
Okay.
full. It's full. So that the details don't matter so much. Linda, did you have another question of Bertrand?
where do you live, Bertrand? Is it Colorado?
Yeah, Boulder, Colorado.
Okay. Thank you. Merci
welcome.
beaucoup.
De rien.
Anybody else have a question for Bertrand? Really? Yes, Karen. You're muted, darling. Go ahead, Karen.
I could see Lisa starting to talk because we always have questions. So, it's kind of general and it's maybe not where you want to go with the night, with the evening, and with trying to keep it concise. But the part that we've been talking about so far is where I live my whole life. So the
Yeah.
question I have that is a lifelong question is this concept of bringing for health and wellness and everything is what because I think you also do with herbs and homeopathy and food and supplements and drugs. And if you want to give a little,
I don't use drugs.
yeah, or just
I don't use pharmaceutical drugs. Let's put it that way. Not in my practice. Not that I have anything against it.
oops,
Uh-oh.
oops.
Well, we'll just wait for a minute.
I'm 81 years old at all. I don't have any.
We see you. We hear you.
Oh, you still hear me? So
Yeah,
that's fine.
it froze for a
So
moment.
what I was saying is that I don't have any, right or wrong about medicine or anything like that. I think sometimes it's abused, but basically the bottom line is sometimes I don't have any problem with any of it. And then it's a matter of what is needed when and for whom and how. That's basically my point of view.
Yeah.
Practical. That's my French culture. So the answer, yes, I do a lot. And again, a lot of that information is on my website, you
Mhm.
know, and I do. So the foundation is always pretty much. So when I look at health, if you want a little bit more on that, I
Mhm.
start with what I call the four foundation. So how effectively are we absorbing and transforming our nutrients so that they can actually bring the health of the body? Okay. So I first start with four foundation: absorption, processing, then elimination, and then protection. How effectively are we eliminating pathogen, so that an external stressor, so that we maintain the integrity of our body. Then when I've done that with people, I look at the body system, all the major body system and what's happening there. Now, very often the trouble in the body system is related to what we find in the foundation, but not always. You could have other things genetically happening in the body system, and that doesn't necessarily mean the foundation is wrong. Okay, it could be trauma, it could be a lot of things. Then I look at the issues. And then I look at the issue within the framework of all those different variables. Okay. And then I have usually a little section on how is the psychological health feeding into that. Okay. So it's a very functional approach. I look probably, so I do that through muscle testing. I act as a person's surrogate. Okay. So I work at a distance for the most part on Zoom, or on Skype, on the phone. And basically, I probably look at about 200 different variables, create a picture of what's going on, and then create a treatment protocol to address what's going on. Okay.
Uh-huh.
It's
And then 1
extremely
month later,
comprehensive.
yeah, very comprehensive. It took me, I created the model very progressively. My late wife passed away in 2012, and she had cancer for 15 years. And so I did all my education in functional medicine at that time, because I was looking at ways to really analyze the physiology, and the biology of the body, and I didn't have the tool at that time. So I basically started taking, hundreds of workshops in functional medicine until I created a template that enabled me to really look at a person's health in great detail, And I don't look at pathology. I look at the pathology in terms of saying, okay, there is something there, but what's behind it, and how do we address that?
Mhm.
Make
So
sense?
Bertrand goes down to the tiniest level, things that modern medicine can't even access. So, I mean, it's kind of miraculous what he can find on the microscopic, even smaller than that level. But Karen, did you have another question? Did you have a follow-up or?
No, that's a
Okay,
big
great.
pair.
Anybody
But
else? have-
basically, if you want to know, I love to play. And as serious as the game is, it's really a fun, snoozing game.
Yeah.
And so I'm basically like Sherlock Holmes, I'm a detective of people's health.
Yes, that's a good description. Accurate.
Actually, the person with co-leading the the workshop with me gave me a Sherlock Holmes hat. Which
Sherlock Holmes hat.
Yes, which of course my 5-year-old grandson has put somewhere. I have no idea where.
Now you just need the pipe to go with it.
That's although I've given up on the pipe, but 30, well, actually, no, 50 years ago.
Well, I will say, if anybody has been trying to get to the bottom of any physical issues, you might want to have a session with Bertrand, because it's so comprehensive, looking at the entire system, including the emotional, the psycho-emotional. And as I said, I've worked with him for long time. And
By the way, we have a senior price for people over 70. And this month, we also have a 25% discount, which was on our last newsletter that, of course, I'm going to extend to all of you. So that would mean that my regular price is usually 240. My senior price is 180. And basically, with the 25% discount, my regular price is at 180. And for people who are senior, then we give them an additional 25% on 180, or I think it's 135.
wow, I'm telling you, that is the best. That is an unbelievable value when you actually experience what Bertrand does. That's unbelievable value. So
just know it might cost you a few $100s in products.
that's true.
So,
That's true.
so
But
and we offer payment plans to anybody.
so
We never reject anybody.
Bertrand has formulated, after looking at so many products, so many lines, so many whatever, he has come and created his own daily pack of vitamins or supplements that are fantastic. They cover the bases. They come in a little bag, and you just, have that as your foundational intake, and then there are other things you add on. But I highly recommend those. I've been taking them a long time.
We should also mention that they were channeled so that they actually produce heart coherence. So
Produce what?
Heart coherence.
Heart coherence.
So it's a truly body, mind, spirit supplement.
I didn't know that.
Well, it's written somewhere.
Okay, that's fantastic.
That's how I channeled it. I channeled it so choosing all the herbal supplement so that it basically would bring that heart coherence. And in fact, when you have the pack, if you're upset, all you have to do is put the pack on your chest, and it brings you right back into balance.
Wow.
So it's kind of magic.
That's fantastic. I'm glad to know that. I've been taking them for
No,
years. I had no idea.
You can have it like your talisman,
Yeah, fantastic. I'll put it on a necklace. Anyway, anybody else have any questions for Bertrand? And they can be, I prefer that they stay in the heart realm, but if you have any other issues, you can ask. Nope. Very quiet bunch tonight. All right. Well, Bertrand, would you like to say anything?
Why don't I do a little invocation and a little blessing?
That's great. Let's do that.
Close the evening. Okay.
Beautiful.
So close your eyes. Father, Mother God, just now we bring ourselves forward into the light. We open up our heart to receive. We fill ourselves with light, love, and spirit, and generosity. We extend the light to our families, to our friends, to the country, to the planet, to the galaxy, to the universe. And we see ourselves radiating that divine light, that divine love, a divine peace all throughout the world. And for all of this, we gave our thanks. And so be it.
That felt wonderful.
Thank you, everybody, for being with us. It was delightful. And I had a great time, and I have a lot more energy than when I started. So it's a good sign.
Oh, very good. Very good. Thank you, Bertrand. That was just beautiful, just wonderful, exactly right. And I wanted you to notice that Patrick Durkin is here.